Straight with all the market action of the day then, the bulls continue to build on yesterday's gains. The Nifty and the Sensex ended over 0.5% higher, and the Sensex is now comfortably above that 36,000 mark, while the Nifty closed above 11,000 for the first time in a month. The broader markets underperformed the benchmarks, while mid-cap gains were measured. The Nifty Bank only gained 0.25% in today's trade. Well, here's that big CNBC-TV18 exclusive interview of the day. Margins will not be sacrificed for growth. That is a categorical assertion coming in from Salil Parekh, the CEO of Infosys. Now, he spoke to Shireen Bhan in what was his first television interview since he took charge of Infosys last year. Here are the key highlights from that conversation. Parekh made it clear that Infosys is targeting a high-margin business and will never sacrifice that for growth. He also added that the company will end the current fiscal with a margin of 22 to 24%. He also said that Infosys' digital business is growing at 30% and worldwide digital market is showing no signs of any slowdown. Now, Parekh went on to say that the company's balance sheet allows it to make large acquisitions, but it will look at small and mid-sized deals for now. And finally, the Infosys CEO said that the priority for him is building an organization which is ready for future and which is relevant for clients.
We are very clear. We are targeting a high margin business. We are never going to sacrifice margins for growth or for anything. For fiscal 19, we have a guidance 22 to 24. We'll fall well within the guidance. So we are very comfortable. That's what we indicated at the end of the last quarter.
We've just seen NASSCOM hold back its guidance, saying that, look, it doesn't make any sense any longer because there are too many macroeconomic uncertainties. You, on the other hand, have actually upped your guidance from 6 to 8% to almost 8.5 to 9% now. So as you look at the story today, what are your biggest concerns that could impact growth?
So growth, first, we are not giving any view on fiscal 20 yet.
Sure.
So fiscal 19, we are comfortable with 8.5 to 9 on constant currency, and that's how Q4 was rolled out. Now, sort of stepping back a bit and looking at the market, if you look at this digital area that I was describing, one that's growing 30% for us, we shared some data a while ago. The addressable market for that is about 160 billion. That whole market is growing at around 15%. So that market today has shown no sign of slowing. Overall demand for the digital is what I shared. For the rest of the core services, the demand is stable. It's low single digits. That's something we will see how the macro develops. And obviously both of these things can be impacted by macro, depending on where the macro goes. But as of now, as we look at Q4, we've seen a fairly good, robust set of demand, and we're going with that.
Let me ask you about capabilities, because you talked about how demand, in that sense, it's outstripping the kind of capabilities that you currently have. What is the strategy to be able to address that? You talked about hiring and beefing up your internal capabilities, but how much of the beefing up of capabilities is going to be driven inorganically through acquisitions? You've done two, about $75 million one, and the other one was about around that ballpark as well. So what's the strategy now as far as acquisitions are concerned? And again, I ask you this in the context of what we've seen happen with Panaya, etc., which have been questions that have been raised to the management on the write down. So when you take these proposals now to the board, what are they asking you that's different from previously?
So the multiple questions in there. I think on the acquisitions, the thinking is, we've laid out clearly our digital agenda. In addition to that, there are other areas of the business which are also doing well. As an example, engineering services. So we will look at acquisitions which fall in these areas, or some mid-sized ones which are opportunistic, which overlap some digital and some non-digital. And based on that, we will drive the acquisition agenda. So far, the two we've done are squarely in the digital space. When we take this to the board, what has happened in the past has happened. What this board has supported is the strategy we've put forth for driving the company forward. So as long as we bring an idea to the board which falls within that strategy, some within digital, some overlapping, small to mid-size, the board is open and receptive to it.
So will it continue to be small and mid-size? Is that how you're looking at the approach going forward?
Today we are looking at small and mid-size. We've not looked at anything else, but we have a very strong balance sheet. So nothing precludes us from doing something, not that we're doing something massive, but we can certainly do mid-size. Our balance sheet allows us to do something even larger. At this stage, we're not doing any of that. Our focus is primarily on small and mid-size.
Big development from the court corner then. The Supreme Court has started hearing a clutch of petitions seeking a review of its verdict into the Rafale fighter jet deal, which gave a clean chit to the government. Now appearing for the government today, Attorney General K.K. Venugopal made a revelation that the documents pertaining to the deal have been stolen from the Defence Ministry and an investigation is currently underway. That's not all. The government also argued that petitioners are relying on classified documents in violation of the Official Secrets Act. But the Supreme Court bench asked the Attorney General if the government is going to take shelter under national security when the allegation is of grave crime and corruption. Ashmit Kumar was at the court and is here to wrap up all that action. Ashmit, sparks flying in the courtroom today.
Indeed, just as the petitioners were about to begin making their submissions, the government in fact intervened and in fact raised a preliminary issue that the very documents that the petitioners were relying on were in fact stolen. That's the language that had been used by the government. Stolen is the word used, and it was reiterated a number of times over the course of the proceedings. The government's stance is quite simple here, that the documents that were in fact uncovered by the Hindu and then subsequently used by the petitioners is something that is covered, is a classified document, it's a privileged document, it's covered under the Official Secrets Act, and as by way of that, given that it's covered and given that they have used it in their petition, they are now liable to face criminal proceedings, and that is a warning in fact that the government gave, that they will be launching criminal proceedings against not just the Hindu but also the petitioners in this particular case. In fact, the government went a step further and said that not just that, but given as how this involves matters of national security and given as how these documents were stolen, it's important that even the court should not set a bad precedent by considering these documents. The central take that the government submitted today was that given as how these documents have been stolen, the entire petition itself should be set aside. Now, this inspired some interesting comments and observations from the bench itself. The bench observed that can the cover of national security be used to deny any form of oversight as far as such defense deals are concerned, as far as allegations of wrongdoings in such defense deals are concerned. In fact, Justice Gogoi took it a step further and said that should they remain willfully unaware, should willfully blind to documents that might have in fact become available, even though they are stolen, if they raise valid points, should the courts in fact remain willfully blind. So some interesting comments that fell from the bench itself. What's interesting as of right now is that the arguments have not been concluded. Bhushan and company raised a number of arguments that there have been instances where even PILs, which were found to be motivated, were in fact eventually considered. On the back of that, what we understand is that the Apex Court has now adjourned the hearing to March 14th, and that's when perhaps we can expect the fireworks to resume between both the sides. Back to you.
All right, Ashmit, thanks very much for joining in with that. Now, as Ashmit was pointing out, while the Attorney General argued that Hindus' reports violate the Official Secrets Act, here we have N. Ram of the Hindu group who said that he believes that whatever has been published by the newspaper is under public interest. Now, he told us that the Hindu will continue to uphold the freedom of speech, and he hoped that the independent media also stands by what they have written.
We don't see anything illegal. I don't want to comment on the proceedings, ongoing proceedings in the Supreme Court. But I know that what we published in the public interest. I believe it's the duty of the news media and independent press to make it available. All that is necessary in our judgment we produce. And we are fully protected under Article 19(1)A of the Indian Constitution, freedom of speech, the fundamental right of freedom of speech and expression. And we are also protected by the relevant sections of the Right to Information Act.
Right, here's the other big story that we've been tracking for you all day today. First, the NSSO survey and now the CMI report. Data pouring in suggests that unemployment is in fact rising to alarming levels. Now, while the Modi government claims to have created more jobs since it came to power in 2014, a survey conducted by the Centre for Monitoring Indian Economy, or CMI, is suggesting a very different picture. CMI says that unemployment rate stood at 7.2% in February of this year, despite a fall in the number of job seekers to 42.7%. To analyse this data, Prashant Nair joins us now. Prashant, this report does not paint a very good picture as far as the jobs are concerned.
The CMI numbers on jobs once again paints a pretty grim picture. Let's dive straight into it. Let's start with the labour participation rate. Very simply put, this is essentially the proportion of the working age population which wants to work, which is actively looking for work. This number has actually been coming off sharply. In February of 2018, this number stood at 43.8%. In the month of February, February 2019, we are at 42.7%. The thing which is most worrying about the labour participation rate is that you go back to 2017, 2018, and so far in 2019, each month has seen a year-on-year fall. I mean, so there has not been one single month where there actually has been an increase. So it seems a more structural problem that people seem to be, in a way, dropping out of the workforce for whatever reason. We don't know the reasons, but the numbers are pretty telling. Let's come to the unemployment number, which is the most cited number. It stands at 7.2%, as you said, the highest in September 2016. This number was 5% in February of 2017, 5.9% in February of 2018, and 7.2% now. The employment rate essentially measures the proportion of working age population that is employed, and that has actually dropped from about 42% in November of 2017 to 39.7% in February of 2019. I mean, the CMI number also projects the number of jobs which need to be created. The numbers are pretty daunting. So the two main things, the labour participation rate is falling and the unemployment rate is going in the other direction. It is rising. Certainly doesn't bode well for a government which is seeking a re-election in the general elections which are coming right up. Back to you.
Well, absolutely, it does not. Prashant, thanks very much for taking us through that very important report that has come out. Pulled up Facebook today for their alleged inability to prevent the misuse of their platform during elections. Now, top Facebook executives who deposed before the panel admitted that the social media giant did not always get it right when it comes to content moderation. That's not all. They also apologized for the remarks made by some Facebook employees in the recent past. Rituparna Bhuya joins us now for more on this story. Rituparna, what transpired during the deposition? Could you tell us what you've picked up?
So after Twitter, it was a turn of Facebook to depose before the parliamentary panel on IT, and several members shared their concerns with the Facebook team on if the platform was able to prevent it being misused during Indian elections. Now, one of the queries that was asked by some of the members to the Facebook team was if the platform was serving society or dividing communities, and the answer did not satisfy the members. Many members felt that Facebook could not tell the parliamentary panel on what the kind of regulatory framework that it operates under when it comes to specifically operations and marketing related operations in India. One specific question that was asked to the Facebook team was on some Facebook employees tweeting on issues like Pulwama and terrorism, and many members felt that the response was not satisfactory. Facebook, we understand, apologized on the remarks made by some of the employees on these issues. Many members of the parliamentary panel were also not convinced on the neutrality of the Facebook platform, specifically on from the point of view of employees of this important social media platform. There were questions which have been given to Facebook, around 10 of these questions, and we have been told that they have been asked to come back with replies in the next 10 days. With that, it's back to you.
समाज को बांटने का काम इन प्लेटफॉर्म्स के माध्यम से ना हो, हिंसा या फिर गाली गलौज का काम ना हो, भारत की सुरक्षा पे कोई खतरा इनके कारण ना हो और भारत जो दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा लोकतंत्र है उसके चुनावों में कोई विदेशी हस्तक्षेप ना हो, ये सब सुनिश्चित करने के लिए इनको कहा गया है ताकि इन प्लेटफॉर्म्स का मिसयूज ना हो और बायस ना हो।
We're very grateful to the Honorable Parliamentary Committee for giving us the opportunity to come and share how we're preparing for the Indian election and helping keep people in India safe on our platforms.
In more news then, the National Company Law Appellate Tribunal has suspended its hearings till further notice after a fire broke out at the CGO complex in New Delhi today. The fire broke out on the 5th floor of the building, which houses the NCLAT on the 3rd floor. Now, the Appellate Tribunal, remember, was scheduled to hear the matters of Jyoti Structures, Dishnut Wireless, Monnet Ispat and Liberty House. Tata Motors MD and CEO Gunter Bashek is convinced that JLR turnaround will take place. He told my colleague Parikshit Luthra that JLR will master the crisis it is facing at the moment and not capitulate in front of it. That's not all. He also quashed rumours of Tata Motors any stake in the subsidiary.
The position taken by Tata Sons, the decision taken and the statement made also by Tata Motors Group and even more so by JLR, rejecting all these kind of rumors and comments on the rumors that we might reduce our stake in JLR is self-explaining and does not need to be further commented. So rumors, and we never would comment on rumors. First part. The second part, I think everything that was necessary to be mentioned as far as the turnaround journey of Jaguar Land Rover is concerned has been very comprehensively explained in the press conference and in the analyst calls after the Q3 results, where we had to explain the write-offs of a significant amount. And what was the key story? As Jaguar Land Rover works on the markets, and for example, last month they were doing extremely well on all of the markets except the subdued demand situation in China. We actually pointed out what is the focus, what is the aspiration as far as the Charge project is concerned, and what are the structural issues that get addressed by Accelerate. With this comprehensive set of actions, I'm deeply convinced, and also talking on behalf of my colleagues at JLR, that the turnaround of JLR is going to happen. As we have seen, a very strong turnaround at Tata Motors India business in the last 18 months. So therefore, a crisis is there to be mastered, and a crisis is not there to actually capitulate in front of it.
The Balakot airstrike debate refuses to die down. The latest argument point is reading the satellite images to gauge whether the strikes carried out by the Indian Air Force on the 26th of February was successful or not. Now, a Reuters report argues that the satellite images showed Madrasa buildings still standing at the scene of the bombing. The images have been produced by Planet Labs Inc., which is a San Francisco-based private satellite operator. Now, this report says that at least 6 buildings that were mentioned on the site were intact on the 4th of March, which is 6 days after the airstrike. Meanwhile, another article in The Print, penned by retired Colonel Vinayak Bhatt, claims that images show 4 dark spots on the roof, missing tents and burnt earth and walls, but walls and buildings are shown intact. Now, the images also show tents that were seen before the strikes, which have gone missing. All right, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of What's Hot. Thank you for watching. Up next, we turn our focus to Dalal Street. The Nifty and the Sensex ended over 0.5% higher, and the broader markets underperformed the benchmarks, while Midcap's gains were measured. Markets Today Talkback takes all the action forward.